Welcome to the Power of Great. I am your host, Matt Crane, and every week we bring you information, we bring you motivation, we bring you people, entrepreneurs, businessmen and women from all different walks of life that truly help you recognize that your current situation is not your defining moment. You know, for more than 10 years, I've been blessed to work with so many different people, whether it be individuals, entrepreneurs, or corporations, and help them enhance their bottom line by improving their sales, marketing, and business development processes. And through that, the Power of Great was born. And because of that, I'm so blessed to be able to bring this podcast to each and every one of you on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. And I want to give a big shout out before we get started. I've got an amazing guest today. But I want to give a big shout out to the folks at Rush Impact Marketing and my man, Jeremy Warner, who really are the engine behind the scene that helped the Power of Great really put out all this great content to all of you on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. But today we have my good friend, Michael Carbone, and he's an online entrepreneur. He's an Ironman and founder of Unleash Yourself podcast on iTunes. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, number one new and noteworthy category in three different areas: education, business, and self-help. And, you know, his podcast was only sitting next to folks like Gary Vaynerchuk and Celine Johnson. But Michael helps people get unleashed. He does this through four very specific ways. Number one, he's going to help you start an online business. Number two, he's going to help you create a side income. Number three, he's going to help you overcome your deepest fears. And number four, he's going to help you find the strength to go all in. Michael, welcome to the Power of Great, my friend.
Thank you so much for that interview. The introduction. That was amazing. Thank you so much. I'm super honored to be here, and I'm pumped. I feel your energy, and I'm stoked. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you know, Michael, I'm so honored to have you on the show because we talked a little bit earlier offline that there's a lot of similarities there. You come from a background that's almost verbatim what my background is, as far as athletics and how that led to business. And for you, you know, one thing that I definitely think that our audience is going to resonate with right away is that you didn't have a crazy traumatic moment in life that switched gears for you. It was more of you knew your path, you knew the effort, you knew you had the talent, and yet something just was off just a little bit. And so you were playing sports, you had an injury, you knew that it was going to be something that was going to keep you from pursuing that further, so you went on and got your MBA.
That's correct.
Most people do, and yet you still felt unfulfilled. So talk to our audience about, you know, what was it that just was not filling you up to the point where you knew you were where you needed to be at that particular moment?
Yes. Good times, but also bad times. I mean, you can always look back and say those are good times because they helped you get to the point where you're at. And they're obviously big learning moments. At the time, you maybe not appreciate them for the lessons they're teaching you. But yeah, after baseball, so what happened, I was playing baseball and my last 2 seasons, I got injured. But I was very fortunate because I was on a scholarship, number one. And number two, I was coming from Canada. And because I came from Canada, the educational system was set up in a way that I went to university in Montreal for my first year of my 4-year program. And then I transferred to a school in upstate New York. And what happened there was when I got to playing baseball in the NCAA, I was a freshman on the field, but a sophomore in the classroom. So I had that 1 extra year. So when I graduated with my degree, I still had that baseball eligibility, which I put to use by going to grad school and getting my MBA. So I didn't pursue the MBA for the reason of getting the MBA. I mean, at the time, I didn't really have that much interest in school. I mean, I was a good student. I was an A student. I graduated in the top 10% of my class, but I never really cared more than that. You know, I wanted to get my degree. I wanted to have that foundation. But, you know, I was really there for baseball. And luckily, I had that extra year of eligibility. So I said, I want to play my last year and chased the MBA at the same time. So really fortunate that allowed me to go that route. But I was completely unfulfilled, like you mentioned. And the reason for that is because I was following a route, or I was following a path that was set out for me by, you know, people around me, my upbringing, or whatever it is. And it wasn't necessarily the path that I truly wanted to be on. And, you know, you only find out by going through the path and going through the hardships and going through these emotions that you find yourself, and you find out what you're truly passionate about and what you're not. But after I graduated, I went to work in a full-time job and put aside a lot of the entrepreneurial things I was doing simply because I didn't think that they were sustainable long-term, and a variety of other reasons that had to do with fear and lack of confidence and, a ton of self-doubt. And I said, I have an MBA. Everyone around me is going to get a six-figure job, having these amazing titles, director of marketing for this company, sales executive for that company, working on Wall Street, working in New York City. Because I went to school in upstate New York, so a lot of my friends were going into the city for work. And I moved back home to Montreal, and I started looking for jobs and went that route because that's what everyone else was doing, and I was expected to do the same thing, and at least I expected that of myself too at the time. So it wasn't that I was doing something against my will. I thought that this was what I wanted to do. This is what I should be doing, and that's what I did. So yeah, and then obviously through a couple of years, it took me 3 years to give online entrepreneurship its fair chance because I never really did. But I'm grateful I got to that point. I'm grateful I took that leap, and I'm sure we'll talk about it today. How what triggered it, what the turning point was, and what I was able to do to unleash myself from that old life that I now left behind for good.
Yeah, first of all, I absolutely love the journey you just took us on, because you had all, like you said, one thing I picked up on is that you were really wanting to forge your own path, not the path that was already forged for you. And, that's something that I think so many millennials or Gen Ys really have a hard time understanding, is that, yes, we do want to change the world. And that's a great way to have it. But you have to truly understand that it takes a deep level of commitment, and it has to be something that you're willing to forge. And so one of the questions that I definitely think needs to be addressed, and I believe you can address it in a great manner, is that you hear now that so many entrepreneurs are saying college is a bust. There's no need to go to college. Don't go into debt and all those things. And yet, for me, college really was the infrastructure that I needed in order to build the principles for where my business was going. And so talk to us about how you really framed the MBA as literally the foundation for where you wanted to be.
Totally, yeah. And without the MBA, I probably would not have been where I am today, simply because that MBA was my safety net. Like, I didn't have anything else. When I quit my job, I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to do this because my plan A, my dream, is to create an online business, have the freedom and flexibility to travel and do all the things that I've been doing over the last 2 years. But I thought to myself, if this fails, there's really no better time than now, because at the time I was 25, I had an MBA, I had 3 years of work experience in my field. And I said, okay, there's no better time than now than to chase my goals, because if this doesn't go well, and the worst case scenario is I need to go back and get a full-time job, I know that I can walk into an interview. I know that I can, get my CV seen. I know that I have the networking skills to get a job. Maybe it won't be my dream job. Maybe it won't be a job that's paying me six figures, but I know that with my current skill set, with my MBA, which was huge, I'm able to get a job. Maybe it will pay me 40K, 50K, 60K. Maybe it won't give me what I want, but it'll give me a full-time income, and I'll be able to survive. I'll be totally okay. So people thinking that, I'm going to quit school or I'm not going to go to school, I'm not from that school of thought, not to use the word school again, but I'm not from that train of thought at all, because I remember thinking that MBA is my way out. If things go bad, I have that to fall back on. And even when I was going through school, this is not something that a lot of people know about me, but I played poker professionally out of my dorm room, and I was making thousands and thousands of dollars playing online poker. And I even had started a small coaching business at the time, which I ended up, using to launch my first online course years down the road. But, I had a ton of friends doing the same thing, making, $10,000 a month playing poker online and dropping out of school to pursue poker full time. And again, I'm not from that mentality. I'm like, I can do this while I'm chasing my degree, while I'm playing NCAA baseball, because, these are things that I'm going to need in the future. And these are great things to have as a foundation. So I was able to do both at the same time. So yeah, if you're listening to this and you're thinking of quitting your degree, you're quitting school to jump into a startup or do whatever, think about doing both at the same time. Think about having this as a platform to use when you graduate and say, you know what, I graduate, I got my degree. Now's the time to go all in on my venture, on my idea, on my business and all that. And people do it all the time. Vince Carter did it when he was in the NBA. He was playing in the, conference championships, and he went to finish, to pick up his diploma on stage, and he got to the game late. So, he was playing in the NBA. He was at the height of his career, and he was still chasing that diploma because it was, something that's really important to him, to his family, and, part of his values. So, I'm from that same mindset, I would say.
And I love how you phrase that, because once again, Michael, it's so eerie how similar our stories really are, because I'm also a big time poker player and utilize that as to create a secondary stream of income. And
that's beautiful.
What I really think that what I really want our listeners, for everyone out there on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, once again, Matt Crane here, Power of Great. And we've got my man, Michael Carbone. He's an online entrepreneur, and he does some amazing things with helping you create online businesses that really lead to freedom. And, I think a lot of people, Michael, miss the fact that they really are their own business first. And they don't understand that everything they do or don't do can either positively affect their brand or negatively affect their brand. And so
100%.
I think what you did through the way you talked about how you pursued your college degree was you really understood that it gave you a secondary level of credibility. And that because you knew you were coming out in a marketplace that was so saturated and fast-paced, you also just added a unique qualifier to your brand with that MBA.
That is true. And at the time, I wasn't thinking of going into online business entrepreneurship. It was a dream for me. So it wasn't reality. It wasn't possible. It wasn't something that I believed I can do, but I wanted to work in the sports industry. And I knew that, like you said, it's a hyper competitive industry. Everyone wants to work in sports. Everyone wants to work in, for a sports agency or work for Nike at the world headquarters in Portland. So that's why I said, okay, I need a degree, because if when I graduate, I want to work in those industries, in those fields. And then later down the road, like I said, when it came time for me to finally let go and do what I truly loved and was passionate about, I had that thought of saying, thank God I have this degree, because now I can chase my passions and chase my dreams, knowing that I have this to come back to down the road if need be. So yeah, it's very, very important. And I know a lot of people listening might not feel that way, or, the future is too far away. So you're trying to focus on the present, which is really, really important. But at the same time, you're going to allow yourself to do multiple things at the same time and do things down the road that you probably wouldn't be able to do, take risks that you wouldn't be able to take if you don't have the right systems or foundations put in place.
So, Michael, walk us through the moment that you knew, okay, this is it. This is when the entrepreneur, I'm ready. I know that I need to create this online business. So did you have an epiphany moment, or was it just one of those times where you said, okay, it's time to go?
It was kind of an epiphany moment combined with the time that it's time to go, And so for me, the reason why I carry the word Ironman in my title, if I email you or email me and I reply, you'll see that it says Michael Carbone, online entrepreneur and Ironman. And the reason why I put that there is because I signed up for an Ironman, the hardest single-day endurance event in the world. It's known as the hardest day in all of sports. And when I signed up for that race, I didn't know how to swim. And what I mean by that is, like, I could swim like 25 meters to one side of the pool, but then I was dead. Like, I could survive in the water, but I could not swim efficiently. I didn't own a bicycle, but I could run. So I signed up for this race because I thought of people who did Ironmans. I looked at them like, these people are incredible athletes. It's unbelievable that they can, swim, bike, and then run a full marathon. The distances that they do, it doesn't make sense to me. But for me, that crazy goal or that crazy challenge is interesting, and that's why I wanted to do it. So I signed up for that event without knowing how to swim really, and without having a bicycle. And to make a long story short, as I was training, I started to realize that, wait a minute, I invested in a coach. I invested in myself. I got all the tools, all the technology, bicycle. I got all the nutrition, all the gels, all the stuff I need. Basically, I got everything I need to learn how to swim. I got everything I need to learn how to bike. I got everything I need to build endurance. And I started seeing progress. I said, hey, I couldn't swim 25 meters 3 months ago, but now I'm swimming 500 meters. And I said, if I'm able to do this in swimming, and swimming really was important to me because this was like the only sport in the world I could not do. Like, if you gave me a basketball and I never played basketball, I would quickly pick up basketball and be one of the best in my grade or in my class or in my school very, very quickly. Same with baseball and volleyball and tennis and everything. But swimming was like the only thing. I'd get in the pool and I would struggle really, really bad. So I said, if I can do this with swimming, this is something that I struggle with. If I can do this with swimming, why can't I do this with, an online business? Why can't I jump in, with 2 feet and say, I signed up for this race without knowing how to swim. Why can't I say, I'm going to quit my job and start this business? And yeah, I won't know how to do it on day one. But what if I invest in myself? What if I surround myself with the right people, the right tools, the right everything? Maybe in 6 months, I'll have made some progress. And then maybe in a year, I'll have made a little more progress. And then maybe in 2 years, I'll be, where I was hoping I'd be. And then I can keep going from there and from there. So that was my biggest epiphany moment, was seeing that small progress. And it really came from investing in myself, taking action every single day on my training, and then seeing the progress. So I said, okay, if I can do it in this, why can't I do it with that? And at the same time, I was working a job that I did not like at all. I was working for Nike, but I was working in retail. So I ended up in retail. It's a very funny story, but I just got to a point where I'm like, I'm in retail, I have an MBA. What am I doing here? Like, I'm not happy. And I remember the store got a massive shipment. I was one of the store managers, and we got a massive shipment, and everybody except for like one cashier was in the back store processing material or processing apparel, because we had so much stuff that we had to get out on the floor. And I was, part of the team. So I was getting my hands dirty, putting sensors on running shoes, putting clothes on hangers. And I was just like, what am I doing? What am I doing? So I'm not where I want to be. I'm not even in a corporate job I want to be in, let alone any job. And there's really no better time than now to let go of everything and, take the steps I need to take to do what I really want to do. So to answer your question, make a super long-winded answer, it was a combination of that epiphany of the swimming, making progress, and the fed up of my corporate life or full-time job going in a million circles and not getting where I wanted to go.
Well, it's funny because we all want the short versions because we think we're going to take up somebody's time, but yet it's those long versions that really are the journey. And, I think that what I heard through the entire portion of that was you really had to step out of your comfort zone. And, so one thing that I would love to know is that would you say that the Ironman really contributed to the 4 parts of what Michael Carbone really is and what he offers to the marketplace today?
100%. Yeah, because it really made me become the person I am today. Like that Ironman, the reason why I carry it and has so much weight is because I dedicated my life to that race. Like at my peak, I was training 20 hours a week. And this was, 20 hours a week on top of a full-time job. It really impacted everything. So I said, okay, I'm not happy where I am. I'm making progress in swimming, so now I believe in myself. So I had this new sense of confidence, this new sense of belief and trust in myself. If I take action and I do what I need to do, I can do anything. And at the same time, I was so stressed out with my job and my training that I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't want to do it anymore. So I said, I'm going to quit my job because I can't balance the two. At the same time, my relationship came to an end. I was with my ex-girlfriend for 6 years, and that relationship came to an end because I was so heavily invested in my training and chasing my passion, and that took me in a completely different direction. So yes, 100% Ironman changed my life for the better, because today I feel like everything is 10x. I feel like my life is 10x. I'm in Italy right now. I've been traveling the world. I've met, a new girl that I'm totally in love with, and my business makes me feel super passionate every single day. And we were talking off air as well that I'm working more than I've ever worked in my entire life, but I'm loving it because I get to do it from Italy, and I have literally a vineyard like right down the road, and I'm doing something that I get emails every day. People who listen to the Unleash Yourself podcast say I'm inspiring them, and I feel like I'm finally making a difference in their lives. Whereas in, my normal 9 to 5, I didn't feel like I was making a difference, because I was just doing something to hand off to the person above me who would then hand it off to someone else, and you never really saw that progress. So yeah, I'm really living the life that I've dreamt about living. It's not the end of the road for me by any means. I still have a ton more that I want to do and a lot further that I want to go. But yes, that Ironman changed everything for me, and it taught me a lot, which I'm super, super grateful for.
Well, once again, for everyone out there on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, I want to say thank you, because you're listening in to the true definition of what it means to understand the power of great. Michael has such an amazing story because he recognized that where he was, even with an MBA, that it was not his defining moment. He's working with Nike. He's a store manager. He's sitting there seeing how the processes are broken, and he recognized that, if I can go all in and train 20 hours a week for an Ironman, then I can go all in and work 20 hours a week for my freedom. And so, Michael, talk to our audience and our listeners out there about, what would it really be like to work with Michael Carbone?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think everybody is different. Therefore, all of my interactions with them are different as well. I really like to get to know the people that I'm working with on a personal level to see what makes them tick, what they're passionate about, and how we can pull that all together to, help them create this life that they want. And I think it's really interesting because I find that I learn so much about myself, and I learn so much about teaching by teaching. And it's interesting because I'm currently reading the book, Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. And he said, if you want to fully, he was talking about this to talk about the ego and to have the ego in check. But I like to spin it in a way of, becoming your best self. And he was saying, Ken Shamrock, the mixed martial artist, one of the first to ever, one of the pioneers of UFC, I could say, he said, the best way to face the world or to face what you want to do is to look at it in three ways. You always want to have a teacher, someone who's teaching you, because by doing so, you're accepting that you're not the best, right? You're looking up to someone and you're constantly growing because you're always surrounded by someone who you accept their feedback and you accept their criticism. So always have a teacher. That's number one. Number two, always have a student. Always have someone who you can teach. Because when you're facing a moment of lack of confidence, low self-esteem, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, when you teach someone something, you feel that confidence. Like, hey, wait a minute, I actually know my stuff. I'm pretty good because, this guy's saying how amazing I am and how knowledgeable I am. And I'm able to help someone make this progress. So it allows me to level that, I'm not good enough because this guy's teaching me, to now like, oh, I'm actually pretty good because I'm able to teach someone else. And the third one, which is super important, is also to surround yourself by people at your level so that you can compete, because competing with them allows you to constantly push yourself because you're always in the situation of competition. And competition, as we know in business and life and everything, helps the world evolve, right? If we didn't have anyone to compete against, we'd all get lazy and complacent and never become our best selves. So that's one of the biggest benefits I get out of teaching, is that interaction and is that relationship. And like I said, everyone's different, everyone has different goals, but what I love to do is to help them believe in themselves, because we all have something inside of us that we can teach, that we can bring online, that we can do business with, whether that's, start an online course, freelance, right? We can all freelance. If you want to have an online business, you can literally start freelancing tomorrow. And within a month or two, you can easily be making $1,000 a month, right? And with that $1,000 a month, you can leave your current situation and go to places like Thailand, which I've spent my last 2 winters, incredibly beautiful place, incredibly low cost of living, and then build your business from there. So I met so many people, freelancing from Thailand, living off $1,000 US per month, living very well, mind you, off $1,000 US per month, living in incredible weather and beaches not far away, and using that as a way of reducing the stress of starting a business. Because if I'm making $1,000 a month and I live in New York City or I live in LA, life is tough, right? I can't really get by. I'm stressed. I feel the stress. I need to get a job. And that takes away from my pursuit of my goal. Whereas if I'm in Thailand and I'm making $1,000 per month and I'm living well, I could say, okay, I could stay here for a couple months, really focus on building this business, not worry about making, short-term sales that will affect the long-term strategy of my business, but, scale that business from the comfort of having lower expenses. So I really want to just inspire people, and that's what I do when I work with people, is inspire them to believe in themselves, because you are capable, right? Sometimes you just don't believe you are, and sometimes you need to hear from someone else. And then once they're inspired and they have that sense of energy, and everyone's felt this energy at some point. The problem with the energy is that you feel it and then it fades, right? Over time, it goes away. So what I do is I make sure the energy stays up, and I give them the tools and knowledge, right, that they need to make progress in their business, because then it's a matter of building some momentum and then getting the energy that from your business. You're getting momentum. You wake up to that email, you wake up to a sale, you wake up to something that it fuels you to keep going, right? So obviously there are ups and downs, but it's all about believing in yourself, getting the tools you need, and then building that momentum that makes it sustainable, that you keep investing in yourself and you keep investing the time that's needed to make progress.
Michael, and I tell you, man, that was a lot of great golden nuggets that you just dropped right there. And so I'm so honored that you shared that with our audience and our listeners. And more importantly, I'm learning as I go. I mean, I'm sitting here taking notes as you're talking, because it's so important for me not to miss any of this information. But Michael, you really are one of the go-to resources for online entrepreneurs in the formulations of courses and webinars, and how you've really been able to take those particular platforms and not only scale your business, but create sustainable income that's on a turnkey operation. So walk our listeners through that process for you, and why you felt that was important, an important component to your online business.
Right. So let's jump back into the story. I think if I give the story, it'll be an easy way to explain that. So like I said, I played poker in college. I did some coaching as well. And then when I graduated, I threw it all out the window and I went to the real world and got a full-time job. Then when I graduated, I said, okay, I got a job. When I quit my job without having a business. I quit my job without having an idea. I quit my job with nothing, right? Just the way I signed up for Ironman. When I wasn't ready, I said, I just need to take action, and then in a position where I have no choice but to do it. So I floundered around for, let's say, 3-4 months without making any sales, no success, because I was, trying to be a marketing strategist. I was trying to do things on a high level because at the time, I'm like, I have an MBA. I don't want to just do something low level because I had an ego that came with the MBA that said, I'm a fancy whatever, right? My friends are making 6 figures in their job. I need to make 6 figures now in this entrepreneurial venture, which obviously does not happen overnight. So what I did was I took an honest look at myself and I said, okay, what skills do I have? What passions do I have? What knowledge do I have that other people don't have? And I made a list of a bunch of things. One of them was online poker. Right. So I said, I know that I can coach people because I've done it in college. I know that I'm successful because I've won a ton of money in college. I have the graphs and the data to prove it. Right. So what if I launched an online course about teaching people how to make a side income playing online poker? And it took me a long time to accept that that was what I wanted to do, because I didn't want to tell people like I'm a poker player. I didn't want to tell people I have a course on online poker, because I felt that, someone with an MBA doesn't do that. I felt that people wouldn't take me seriously. So I didn't want to do it. But then I realized that I was being, stubborn, and I was letting my ego get in the way of what I wanted to do. And I said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch an online business around my online course, right? How to make a side income playing online poker. And I'm going to learn everything I need to learn about starting an online business through this course. It's not something I'm going to do forever, but I'm going to learn everything I could, right? I'm going to learn how to start a business. I'm going to learn how to create a WordPress site. I'm going to learn how to create an online course. I'm going to learn how to podcast. I had a poker podcast as well. I'm going to learn how to sell the course. And I learned everything I could. But most importantly, what I learned throughout the process was how to use a webinar to launch a business, how to use a webinar to then sell the course that I had launched. And I actually went ahead and wrote a whole case study about a week ago. I wrote a 17-page case study outlining this entire process. So if you want that, it's over at my website at michaelcarbone.ca. You'll see it there. So 17 pages goes into complete depth as to how I launched my first business with my online poker course and how I use webinars to sell it. So if you guys want that, you can grab it. But yeah, so I learned webinars, and that was the key thing for me, because webinars allowed me to launch my business launch my course before I created it. And basically I pre-sold access to the course, and I made some sales upfront. Then I created the course and I delivered it a month later. So that allowed me to make sales before I created it. And then obviously I had this platform that I learned a ton about because I obsessed over it. I went crazy over it. I'm like, oh my God, this thing is like a miracle. It's not, it's actually a process. But what happened was I obsessed over webinars, and I started watching everybody's webinar. I started taking courses. I started learning everything I could about webinars. And then when my business was doing fairly well and I was making sustainable monthly revenues, I went off to travel last year. And the thing about my traveling last year was I traveled across Thailand for 2 months. Then I went to Australia for 1 month. And what happened was I was hosting a webinar every week or every 2 weeks, and I was making a couple $1,000s on each webinar. And life was very simple and very easy because I was just hosting webinars everywhere I went. Then when I came back from my travels and I said, okay, now I want to do things on a bigger scale. I want to really, impact more people. And it's time to move away from the poker brand. What I did was launch the website I have now, michaelcarbone.ca. And I said, okay, again, let's start over from scratch. What can I teach people? What am I knowledgeable about? What skills do I have? What am I passionate about as well? And that was webinars. So I said, okay, I'm going to start my next online course, which is now my first online course with the new brand. And it's about how to use webinars, how to launch or how to create profitable webinars, because there's a difference between hosting a webinar and hosting a profitable webinar. And I get that a lot from my students that come to me, because people tend to come to me when they're at rock bottom. Michael, I've hosted 4 webinars and made $0. Michael, I've hosted 3 webinars and made, $20. How does this work? Right? So a lot of people wait till they're about to quit before looking for that last second help. And fortunately, I'll be able to help them get out of that. And like my student, Helena, she hosted 3 webinars in a row that made $0. We worked together. She took the course. We worked one-on-one as well. And the next webinar she hosted, she made $1,800. And to me, that's mind-blowing. I think I was happier than she was. But it's because webinars is just an amazing vehicle for connection, just face-to-face, because you're on a webcam, you're live, you're answering questions, you're interacting. Plus, you're teaching your content. and you're building that relationship. And over the course of a 1 hour webinar, you can take someone from, I've never heard of Michael Carbone to now I love this guy and I want to buy his course. I think he's brilliant, right? And you can do that, and whoever's listening could do that as well. And like I said, it's not magic, although it seemed like it at the time for me, but it's really a system that you can really learn and really implement in your business. And you can, like I said, you can launch your business with a webinar. You can have a current business that you want to scale and easily add $1,000 per month to your business. There's a very wide range of ways that you can use the vehicle, that I like to call it, the vehicle of the webinar, to enhance your current business. So that's what I did, and that's how I do it today. I'm launching online courses and I'm selling them on webinars. I'm teaching other people about webinars, and it still makes me incredibly passionate, because I don't know what it is about being live like we are right now that just gets me fired up and it gets me at my best. So it's very interesting that I found it in that way as well.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, because I think for so many people, there's an amazing amount of content that really is sitting out there in the world. There's so many people who have, whether it be through their intricate stories, the way that they've developed something, or how they've overcome something, and yet they still just sit on that invaluable content. And so for me, Michael, that was one of the main factors that led me to you, was our good friend Frank Salas hosted you. And I just, for whatever reason, there's 7 billion people on planet Earth, and yet so many people are so dead set on competing with this one segment, as if they've got to have all the attention. And yet we as human beings connect with certain people either instantaneously or at a deeper level. But one thing that I really valued from you was that your authenticity. You're not out here talking about, I'm going to show you the 6-figure blueprint. You're specific. Hey, I'm going to show you how I was able to create this and how it will legitimately help you add $1,000 a month. And for some people, that's life-changing income.
Totally. It totally is. And when I used to do my poker webinars, I used to always start with a segment where I said, let's close our eyes. And I know people would laugh, but I say, close your eyes and imagine what you can do with an extra $5,000. That's it. $5K. If you can make $5,000 between now and the end of the year, what would you do with that money? And everyone would say the same thing. Travel, take my wife and my kids on a vacation, pay off some debt, invest in myself, buy that flat screen TV that I have had my eye on for a while. And I said, okay, so why is it that we sit around, dreaming of 6 figures or dreaming of $1 million instead of taking action and making 5K? Because you can make 5K in a year and go on an all-inclusive paid vacation to a beautiful place, right? And actually do it and only make 5K. Or you can sit at home, dream of making $1 million and make 0, right? And then you still made 0. So I'd like to encourage people to, when you're starting out, don't start where you want to end. Start where you are and make that small step before you can make the big one, right? Because like I said, dreaming of $1 million and making 0 is worthless. But dreaming of 5K and actually making it is actually 5K in your pocket that you wouldn't have. So when I try to encourage people to do webinars, I say, I just want to show you how you can make your first 1K, or how you can add 1K to your current business by hosting webinars, because it's very doable, right? And a lot of my students have made 1K on one webinar, whether that was their first, their second, their third, their fourth. They're able to make that kind of revenue because they're able to learn the system, leverage the platform, present the best version of themselves. And obviously it comes with a lot of practice as well. I get the question a lot, Michael, do you practice for your webinar, or you just go live and you present? I'm like, if you were going on, TED Stage or TEDx, would you practice your presentation? Of course you would. Same thing with a webinar. And that's really what it comes down to, is preparation, practice, and then execution. You don't start with the execution. So yeah, I like to keep it realistic, because I don't believe in selling someone a 6-figure webinar service or a 7-figure webinar course. Maybe it made me 7 figures, which it didn't. But I'm saying, even if it made me 7 figures, doesn't mean that it will make you 7 figures, right? So I want to start with something, the results that I can help you achieve realistically, because I'd rather be realistic and get you small results than be unrealistic and get you no results. So that's really my mentality when it comes to it.
Yeah, I firmly believe in us two being baseball guys, is that, what I told my particular audience on a previous live stream is that you can still go to the Hall of Fame hitting singles. You don't necessarily have to just hit home runs. It's just that the home runs happen to be the prettiest and the sexiest term sitting out there. But yet so many people have gone into the Hall of Fame knowing just how to get on base and doing what I like to call station-to-station baseball. And I think one of the things that our listeners out there on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher that I definitely want to vouch for with Michael is that he truly is a great teacher of the station to station. I was able to follow him from start to finish on the way he was laying out his teachings, and I'm happy to announce that we're going to be offering an opportunity for you guys to join us on a webinar with Michael in a little over 7 days and a few hours. And you're going to be able to find more about that on IamMattCrane.com, as well as all of my social media outlets at IamMattCrane. But I also want to kick back to Michael one more time and make sure that everyone listening on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, michaelcarbone8.ca, you want to download that case study. It is absolutely worth the download. It is worth reading. It is worth having it in your tool belt for success, because not only is he going to show you how he created webinars that sustained him, but he really lays out a great foundation for you to go and create a webinar.
Yeah, and just a quick correction, the website is michaelcarbone.ca without the 8. I'm on social media at michaelcarbone8, so Instagram at michaelcarbone8, but the website michaelcarbone.ca. And like you said, that case study, like I put even like my heart and soul in it. There are parts where I show you exact emails I sent out to people like Noah Kagan, who helped me with a reply and giving me some advice. And you should check out his reply and how simple it is and how it triggered my thoughts. I put my feelings, how I felt at the time. And I think it's super relatable because I just really said, this is where I was at mentally. I had zero confidence in myself. Read this email I sent Noah Kagan. It sounds like I have zero confidence. I'm like almost in tears writing it. And then I show you the evolution, what I did, how I came to terms with the idea I had, what I did to pre-sell my course before I created it, how I created my course while getting paid to do it, and how I delivered it, and how I sold it over and over again with webinars. So it's a really, really good case study. And then if you're interested in webinars, me and Matt, like he said, we're hosting a webinar together, teaching you guys how to make your first 1K or add 1K to your current monthly revenue by hosting webinars. And at the same time, build your email list by 1,000 subscribers, because that's what webinars do. Not only do they help you make sales, but they help you build that important email list, because guess what? When people sign up to your webinar, you got an email opt-in, right? So, that's how we met as well. I did a joint venture, and you'll learn also on that training the importance of joint ventures. This is why I'm here. I did a joint venture with Mr. Frank Salas. I met Mr. Matt Crane, and here we are doing a podcast interview. We're doing a webinar together, and you're going to learn all that stuff on that training. So it's live. It's 100% free. Make sure to check it out on Matt's website, and hope to see you there. Make sure you say hello if you're there as well. Make sure you type in the chat box and say hello.
And as we're wrapping up the show, Michael, you host a very popular podcast on iTunes as well, Unleash. Unleash Yourself.
Yes,
and one thing I really like about that particular podcast is, once again, it's what you see is what you get. And you have some amazing guests on there. You had Susan B. I love her from Instagram. I absolutely love her. And I really loved that particular episode. But walk us through how the podcast just adds another layer of foundation for you to build out your business.
Yeah, and the podcast was a great experiment for me, because when I started my podcast, I said, okay, my goal with the podcast is to make revenue with the podcast. I want to have a show that has a mass audience, and I'm going to have sponsors, and I'm going to be like Lewis Howes and John Lee Dumas and have, thousands and thousands of dollars of monthly revenue with the podcast. But what happened was not that at all. What happened is that I got a ton of networking opportunities. I had a ton of ability to connect with influencers, because I had all these people I wanted to connect with. I wanted to do joint ventures with them. I wanted to speak to them and pick their brain even, but I had nothing to offer in return. I can't just email someone and say, hey, we jump on a 30-minute Skype call and chat. We'll ask you some questions about Instagram, right? I couldn't do that. But now with the podcast, it allows me to reach out to someone like Susan Zimmerman and say, hey, do you have 30 minutes to jump on a podcast interview? Here's my audience. Here's who I am on iTunes. And that opens the door to these incredible conversations. But again, with the podcast, I had to start from scratch, right? When I started, I had zero audience, and I had to start small. And what happened was I started my first 5 podcast interviews with people within my network. Then from there, I was able to get some introductions. And as you grow, you do more interviews and more introductions, and you get higher level people that introduce you to higher level people as well, if you do an incredible job with them, right? And that led me to people like Tucker Max, who's a #1 New York Times bestseller. It led me to James Lawrence, who has the Guinness World Record for the most Ironmans done consecutively at 50 straight Ironmans and in 50 straight days in 50 different states as well. It led me to former UFC fighter Charlie Brennan, Subi Zimmerman, and some incredible others coming up in the pipeline as well. But the podcast has been incredible from that perspective. My network has grown drastically. I've had some joint venture possibilities that I wouldn't otherwise have. And also at the same time, it allows me to improve my brand, right? When I'm hanging around with all these really high-level people, instantly my brand gets propelled into that stratosphere with them as well. Plus, like I said, learning from them over a course of an hour, when some of them charge, $500, $1,000 for an hour of coaching, I'm able to get it virtually for free because we do it over a podcast interview. And at the same time, being able to record it and share with everyone and get emails from people saying, how the episode helped them achieve X, Y, and Z, or how it came at a good time because they were feeling certain emotions that we're able to address in the podcast. So overall, really, really fun. Like I said, I didn't expect to go this route with it, but super grateful for the growth that it's had, and always excited when I check iTunes and I see it in the What's Hot section and it's next to John Lee Dumas or Lewis Howes. I'm like, what? I never would have thought that's possible. But yeah, I checked it today and I saw it in the What's Hot list on iTunes Canada, and super, super exciting stuff.
Yeah, and Michael, I will tell you, you're just you have an amazing energy about you. You have a great spirit, and you're a very intuitive business mind. And, for everyone out there that's listening, iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio, my man Michael Carbone is the quintessential example of what it means to tap into your power of great. And I am just so thankful for having you on the show, Michael. And, so where can we really find out more about you other than your website? Where can our audience, our listeners, go and find out everything they need to know about you, my friend?
Yeah, so the easiest way is the website, michaelcarbone.ca. You'll find the podcast there. You'll find blog posts there. You'll find the case studies and some free resources there as well. Other than that, if you like social media, I focused all my effort on Instagram. I ignored Facebook and Twitter. Instagram is my favorite. I'm at Michael Carbone 8. So first name, last name with the number 8. The number 8 is because I'm born on the 8th day of the 8th month of the 88th year. So 8888. So the number 8 goes everywhere with me. So follow me on Instagram. And other than that, if you love iTunes and you like podcasts, if you listen to this podcast, you like podcasts, you could search for Unleash Yourself in iTunes and you'll see me there. So make sure you subscribe and check out the show. And if you want to shoot me an email and get in touch, I'd be more than happy to. I usually reply to every single email within 24 hours. So you can find the contact form on my website. Just shoot me an email through that form and I'll be happy to reply. Just let me know that you listen to me on the podcast, Matt Crane, and I'll be super happy to answer any of your questions and get back to you as soon as I could.
Yes, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We once again want to thank each and every one of you that come to our podcast every week on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. My name is Matt Crane, and I am your host for The Power of Great, where my mission is to help you recognize that your current situation is not your defining moment. And I always leave you with this every single week. Success is never measured by what you step out of, rather by what you are committed to step into. So I look forward to sharing so much with you next time, and I love to hear from each and every one of you. So make sure you're reaching out to me, Matt at IamMattCrane.com, with your comments, but more importantly, drop a review on the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, so that way I know I'm delivering the content you deserve every single week. We'll see you next time.